No.
I think unless you have it on a thumb drive, I think that's the best you.
That's the best I'm going to get.
No.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'm here once again, kind of go over some questions that came up from the presentation back in September in regards to the storage container, modular facilities, however you want to describe it. In simple terms, storage container concept down at Sandbar Park. And the idea to move forward with that bid process so that we can get some concrete information, data, figures that we can present to the town board so the town board can make a decision down the road in regards to whether or not this is something that they wish to move forward. But I did put together a few things in regards to kind of some questions that did come up from that last presentation. So kind of similar to what we just heard with the salt barn from a bid proposal process. The town, obviously, we have the option to go out for bid for 2 containers. A little different than the last presentation that I shared, where we were looking at 3. We scaled that back a little bit, pulled one of those off. That was for the stage, just because of the size of that on that footprint just created, I'll say, not the visual concept that I think would be the ideal use for that area. So looking at 2, one obviously, both of those being seasonal for a food and beverage operation, timeframe roughly May to October. It would incur, as Supervisor just mentioned and Paul confirmed, no cost to the town to go through this bid process. It also obviously adheres to the town's procurement policy. So the proposal being one 40-foot storage container, which would operate as a restaurant or a grill, one 20-foot storage container, which would operate as a beverage or a bar. Both units would be equipped with the necessary infrastructure or the bones of the building to support both of those features, so either the food or beverage operation. Things such as stove vent hood, fire suppression system, grease traps, power gas connections. Those would be, again, the bones to those structures. The selected operator would then be responsible for outfitting the containers with their own kitchen and bar equipment as they see fit. Again, very similar to what we kind of went through with the brick and mortar option, where we would provide the infrastructure and the operator would then outfit it for their service or for what the way they would provide. Once the bid information is received, ideally, again, based on our time frame, we're looking at around December 12th or so of this year. Town board would then have the opportunity to evaluate whether or not this is a project that we should continue to proceed with and move forward with selecting or soliciting for an operator. Things to consider is I got for an example, if the bid results come back and they're less than what I shared back in September, so they come in, again, we'll say around 250 for both units, the board may opt to continue and move forward with looking for an operator. If the bid results come back and they're higher than what we thought, then the board may decide to, as Supervisor just mentioned, just stop the process and move it down the road and try to come up with something different down the road. Decision regarding the acceptance of the low bid would be targeted for early of 2026. So again, similar to what we just heard with the salt barn, if the bids come in December, we don't have to actually act on those as part of the bid pack. We do target in there that acceptance would not take place until possibly February of 26. That also allows us time to be able to solicit and look for a qualified operator. So again, assuming the bid results are favorable, the town will proceed with the selecting of the operator. Selection process will follow basically the same format that we used with the brick and mortar. Go out to RFP, see if we can find an operator who would like to operate these features in a seasonal operation. This process will consider not only the traditional restaurateurs, but also seasonal operators such as food truck operators, since it's a similar business model. I think I did the wrong one. All right, here we go. All right. So again, after September, there was a lot of discussion and questions regarding the necessity of having food or beverage option at Sandbar Park. Again, understanding what the cost for this type of a feature, these storage containers, would be, will obviously help the town board with the information needed in order to make an informed decision whether or not to proceed. A couple of bullets that I did put in here based on some questions that I did receive after that presentation. One was, a lot of questions and a lot of comments about the original or the previous brick and mortar building being downsized or smaller. So the option to construct a smaller restaurant than what was actually designed and bid back in October of '24 just is not a viable business model for a potential operator. It was the consistent message from all the interested restaurateurs was that the building had to be a maximum allowable footprint in order to provide for sufficient seating capacity in order to have a successful business model. It's essential it was essential for the restaurateur to achieve profitability and enabling a repayment of any bond issued by the town to finance the building. So in other words, going to a smaller building reduce the number of people that could be in it, which would obviously impact a restaurateur's ability to be profitable. Again, as an example, if we were to construct a 1,600 square foot building, which was about the size of the previous restaurant, an estimated cost being about $1 million, which would probably be a challenge just based on current construction costs. Bond repayment would be approximately $8,000 a month for that. A building of that size would not be able to accommodate enough seating to generate the revenue necessary for both profitability as well as repayment of the bond obligation. And again, that was a message that we heard with every single restaurateur that we met with. The previous financial model that was used for the formal restaurant is no longer applicable. That facility carried no bond repayment, required no minimal leasehold improvements, which allowed for a totally different financial structure for them. So a lot of people that have bring up the comment or have the concern of, well, why don't we just go back to the same model? It's just not feasible. If the new project bids allow that the town could actually purchase the containers outright without the need for any sort of bond, for example, by using funds out of the Parkland Trust Fund, then the resulting financial arrangement with any operator would be significantly be more feasible and sustainable for the operator. If we were not having to have a bond payback to the operator, obviously then the town has a much easier time to be able to negotiate any kind of a licensing agreement or restaurant agreement with them. So the town did actually reach out. Pass Road Design actually did work with us at no cost to develop a conceptual vision for that site. This does show that 40-foot restaurant building, does show the 20-foot bar featuring the walk-up and window seating. Obviously the restaurant operator would have the right to be able to do things such as table service if they so desired. Additionally, plan incorporates a small covered stage to accommodate music or other type of performances. Obviously the site does allow for other features that could be considered. Things again like fire pit with seating, patio heaters, outdoor play areas such as cornhole, television, and even something such as a kayak rental. So these are the conceptual drawings. I wish I could make them a little larger for you, but you can see that's a 40-foot container that is on the north side of the grass area, and then that is the 20-foot bar feature that's actually on the east side of it. Plenty of seating, room for additional table seating, whether it's for table service, and again, also showing it out onto the walkway. And that's a close-up of what a bar storage container modular facility could look like. So ideally, what we'd like to do is using this concept is go out to bid, see what the cost it would be for a 40-foot container, a 20-foot container, and then take those facts and that data, present it to the town board, and make a determination. While that process is going on, we'll begin the process of reaching out to potential operators, see if there's interest. I can tell you that in order to put the information into a bid pack that would be comprehensive for what would be required for the bones, so to speak. I've had a few discussions with some food truck operators. I've had very good conversations with them about what they would need and what type of infrastructure, and they were all pretty similar in the fact that they're just looking for general setup, and then they actually outfit it to their need. But we also discussed the possibility of kind of going to the next step in regards to potentially looking at including them in the RFP for an operator. So there is interest there from some vendors. But again, if we're looking at a 2026 season, we need to begin this process now so that early in 2026, potentially we can move forward with the acquiring of these containers. Questions?
Who pays for the once the container is delivered with the bare bones inside of it? Who pays for bringing it up to what they would want to utilize it for?
Great question. So one of the things we did put in the bid pack is one of the bid alternates is actually a connection to the utilities. So is that what you're asking for?
Well,
Like the
yes
connection?
and no. So say they're in the bar, we're not going to provide, coolers and all that other stuff, right?
Correct.
So who
The operator would.
he would. So the timing on this has got to be kind of difficult, I would assume, because you don't want to pay for these containers, have them delivered. We don't have operators, and then where do we go from there?
Well, ideally, what'll happen is from here to the point of making a decision whether or not to purchase, we will begin soliciting for operators. If we can find an operator that is willing to work with the town, then we'll actually begin the process of determining what their needs would be to be able to include in the unit.
Okay. So I know that you reached out to some of the vendors that were there this summer, right?
Mhm.
About this very idea.
Yep.
And they seem to be in agreement that, the containers would be the way to go.
Yeah, I had actually two meetings in the last couple of weeks with two of the operators that provided food service this past summer with their truck. And they were the ones to kind of provide some insight of some of those bones to what needs to be in there. Things like in Monroe County, it's 3 sinks are required in a restaurant, where in other areas, it might only be 2 sinks, but in Monroe County, you need to have 3 sinks. So as part of our bid pack, we made sure that we had that feature built in. So they were helpful in designing that piece, as well as sharing their interest in potentially operating.
And who is going to pay for these containers? The town does or the
town would.
vendors?
The town would, because the town would actually own them.
But then the town would, the restaurateur would pay a lease,
Correct.
which would help pay for that
So-
facility.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you didn't cut me off. I was just sort of trying to answer Ginny's question, but I think that, like the salt barn, it's very hard to make a decision on something if you don't know
Correct.
what it's going to cost. So, like Chris outlined in his presentation, if this is $800,000 or $1 million, it doesn't create a viable business model, and then you're making a decision based on data as opposed to presumption.
I'm smiling as you say that, because anybody who knows me knows that I'm going to have a T-shirt printed up and it says, "I pray for patience and I want it right now." One of the things I really have no patience for is theoretical discussions and trying to project without data and facts. And I don't know why we wouldn't go out to bid to get these numbers so that we can make an intelligent decision. Until we have that, it's just talk that keeps going round and round.
Well, we do have some projections, and how this differs from the highway department is in the highway department, that package, we have the ability to send out 3 different RFPs at probably a minimal amount of money. Plus, it would only take about a week per pat to get the information back as to cost. With respect to this concept, Chris, I I've been to Backwoods and I saw that setup and I really like it. And this name of Backwoods, that's the setting. And I don't see that setting here at all. I just don't. I'm not saying I'm not willing to send it out to bid.
Sure.
I absolutely am, but
Sure.
I don't know.
Well,
My personal feeling is that it's not really the setting for containers at Sandbar Park. I don't have a suggestion as an alternative, but I'm more than willing to send this out.
Sure,
And,
and then
I'd
when-
like to have
yeah.
more public input on this also.
When you receive that feedback, when we receive the bids back, then obviously that gives you the fact to be able to determine whether or not it's something, the cost may come back and may change your mind because of, the ability to have an operator to be able to bring in revenue to offset the cost of the expense. It's worth it. I think it's worth it for us to be able to move forward and be able to
And
Patty's
I don't
comment.
disagree with
Yeah.
that whatsoever.
And then at that point, you'll make your decision whether or not to proceed with it.
So would you be looking to have us make this decision before January 1st?
Decision to,
Which way to go?
no,
Okay.
no,
thank
as
you.
part of the bid pack, it's actually written right in the bid pack that a decision wouldn't be made until February of '26.
Outstanding.
The other thing I would like to interject is I actually saw one of these in the opposite setting as Backwoods. I was in Estes Park last week, and there's one sitting right on the main street of Estes Park, and it functions just beautifully.
Where is that, by the way, Estes Park?
Colorado.
Colorado.
Darn it.
So, Chris,
I'm not going there.
Gantt
I saw a lot
charts,
of elk, too. by the way.
Gantt charts are nice because they're visuals. So let me do a verbal Gantt chart and tell me where I'm wrong on this, because I'm sure I'll be wrong. Tonight, when we get to a resolution I'm putting out to bid, which doesn't cost us anymore, if we decide not to put it out to bid, we're done. If we decide to put it out to bid, then the next thing that would happen is that on the 18th of December, you would come back and show in a workshop, show what we got on those bids.
Correct.
If the workshop, if you want to call it, is they're $1 million for these things, it's dead. We know that, right? But let's say it's palatable, okay? Then the resolution that would be on the 18th regular board meeting is to put out an RFP to the restaurateurs, bar owners, and the food truck operators who have shown interest. Then we all say Merry Christmas, we go home, and then in January, late January or February, when you get back the RFP and have a valid operator, let's say. If you don't have a valid operator, once again, the town board in January, February says, we're not moving forward with accepting the bids on the containers because we don't have an operator.
That's correct.
All right. But if you have an operator and you come to a workshop in late January, early February and say, hey, we have this operator at this cost, this and that, they're very excited, this, that. Well, that would have 2 resolutions potentially that night after that workshop in late January, February. One, to accept the low bid, which you're building the bid package, to telling them right out of the gate, hey, you're giving us this bid by December 15th, but we're not accepting it until February.
Correct.
And we don't have to accept any bids. So that would be one resolution. And the second one would be probably some semblance of accepting the operator who that board has decided is valid.
Correct.
Now, in that Gantt chart, did I miss anything?
No, you're spot on.
Okay. Because that crosses over into 2026, I mean, the risk of everybody is that 3 new board members, even if it's, well, the cost is good and we got a great operator, they might say, we want no part of this. We got public input, this and that. We want no part of this.
Correct.
And that could happen.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter if we got a great operator and we got very reasonable cost on the low bid. That's out of the control of this 5-person board.
That's
the only
correct.
control we have is to put this out to bid, knowing that then we're not dealing in with whatever you said, patience, whatever.
I need some facts.
We're not, if then, we'll find out by the 18th if it's what the price is.
Correct.
And you're willing to take the risk of the time investment also to go out to find out how to put together an RFP, and I know Keith is helping with this, to the operators who have already shown interest. So
And that model, we're just going to follow a similar model to what we did for when we did the brick and mortar. It'll be
Sure.
very similar to that. And again, the reason why we're doing this now versus at a later point is if we want to have any semblance of a 26 season down there for this,
Yeah,
we need to have the information ready early in 26 to make a decision.
sure.
It would be good for this to also line up with the comprehensive plan, which I believe there is another meeting with some of the preliminary results in the February timeframe, which should line up nicely with understanding if this type of feature is something that is commensurate with the community input and recommendation from the comprehensive plan. So
Sure.
having the cost estimate now would be a key piece to having those two things have the opportunity to even come together.